I'm so fascinated about why you choose to do what you do. How does your family influence you, and how do you influence your family? It's hard to always be the person that has to hold the smile. I just couldn't handle it emotionally anymore. But the harder thing was being open and vulnerable.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Highest Version Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Follovong, and on this podcast, we talk about falling in love with the process of getting better every day and becoming the highest version of ourselves. Today's guest is Huy Huynh. He is a sports fanatic that has a master's degree in psychology and a marriage and family concentration. He is helping me today to help you guys prioritize your mental health. And without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Huy. What's up, man? How are you doing today, man?
Good, good. How are you doing?
Good, man. Getting through, getting through the daily task as much as I can. I just want to say thank you for coming on. I know this is one of our first conversations. We connected through your partner Jen, who was a past guest. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited to get into your thoughts on mental health and how you can really help my community prioritize it, and maybe some tips to help them on their journey. So the first question I want to ask you, and I think it's fitting, is, how is your mental health nowadays?
I'd say in general it's better. But then, I think it's always a work in progress.
Of
There's
course.
always tough, challenging days, and then there are days where things are the best that it can be. And I think overall, it's just every day is just a chance to kind of learn and put what I know and stuff into practice.
Hmm.
And, I'm never gonna say that it's the best and I'm perfect now and everything is gone. But you know, if I look at my journey of just healing and learning about myself, the progression is there. I learned a lot, and even when I feel like I have made a lot of progress, there's still so much more to do in different ways. But overall, yeah, I think I'm happy with where I am,
Yes, sir.
and but there's still a lot to do. And if anything, I'm sure we're gonna get into it. And that's one of the hard part is just stay feeling content and happy with things.
Yeah, yeah, man. No, I cannot agree with you anymore. It took me a while to figure out that happiness is just like all of our other emotions, only temporary. So we can feel happy at one point and then feel sad at another. Like, I think a lot of us strive to be happy, right? Which is a good thing, but I think we need to understand that feeling is temporary, and all we can do is just be present in that time and be very appreciative of it. I want to get into the featured Funko Pop of the episode, and the one I chose for you is, just bring it up here, is Ted Lasso. So if you guys are familiar with the show Ted Lasso, basically it's a Division two football coach. I said D. I don't know why I said Division. Division two football coach that goes over to England to coach a soccer team, ABC Richmond. And basically, the reason why I picked Ted Lasso as the featured Funko Pop for you is because you told me offline that you are a soccer fanatic, that was the number one sport that you like to watch. But also, that show is really built around mental health and how we see Ted's like evolution of dealing with it, going to therapy, and really facing his adversities on his mental health journey. So, yeah, man, I felt like that was a perfect fit for you, just like characteristic wise, concept wise. Yeah, just want to get your thoughts on that and how I compare you and Ted Lasso together.
So, I mean, we talked about this. Like, it's probably one of my favorite shows of all time. If not number one, top two for sure.
Mm.
So I was very happy to see that that was the chosen Funko Pop for this episode. If anybody never watched it, just take the time to watch it. It's
Seriously.
one of the most beautifully written show of all time, in my opinion. And the character himself, Ted, I feel like there's a lot of ways we can relate and in that sense where I do feel that not to spoil it too much for the show in general, but you know someone trying to stay positive
Hmm.
no matter what is going on in life, and at the same time you have to be someone who is stay strong, for the purpose of others,
Mm.
right? For him, it's his family, his team, and everything. And for me, I see myself having to do that. At the bare minimum, it was for myself. Like I had to do this so that no one else worries about me.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think it for him it was so hard to get any sort of help to be able to open up, to be able to be vulnerable and be okay with that. Like if you ever watch it, it takes him a while, even spending time with a therapist to feel safe and or even willing
Yeah.
because of all the other, challenges he goes through and symptoms and whatnot that he
Mm.
goes through in order to be like, you know what, I have to do something to change my life, right? And for me, I think it was very similar. Like I did, as much as I was a psychology student wanting to be a therapist and all that, I didn't go to therapy until right before I started my master's
Oh
degree.
wow.
So I
Mm.
was, I was going to school for psychology. I know I wanted to be a therapist, but I never thought about let me go to therapy too, because I'm just like, well, I think my life is fine, right?
Mm.
Like I'm in school, I'm doing well, I'm graduating and whatnot in undergrad, but I was going through stages where me and my mom would have arguments, like full out, we just like yelling at each other, you
Mm.
know, and that was happening. I don't want to say often, but it's not even occasionally, somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Like we can say once every month or two, but like that's not normal. That's not healthy,
Mm.
to be like full out, arguing with somebody about such little things and about the same things at the same time,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, well, I never thought that was a problem. I
Mm.
was like, whatever. And then until I started to get help or, go and be like, well, what can this do for me?
Mm.
Right. And for me, the purpose was just like, let's just see what happens. Like, I'm going to be a therapist. I should be on the other side of the chair.
Mm.
I should see what it feels like to be a client.
Yeah.
And that changed my perspective a lot, you know.
Mm.
And it's, it's hard to always be the person that has to hold the smile, right? And be strong.
Yeah.
And whether it's head did it so that his team can maintain their mentality, their morale as a team, or
Mm.
for his family who was, going through a lot of stuff
Yeah.
without spoiling too much, like his own family going through a lot of stuff, right? And for me, just so that I can keep going each day,
Mm.
right? Like there was like, I can't even say there was two options. There was one option. The option was push it aside and then just keep going
Yeah.
because what you're trying to achieve and your goals and whatnot is important.
Mm.
And then you just push it aside so you can achieve your goals. And when
Yeah.
you achieve your goals, then maybe you can get to these things later, you know.
Mm.
But it wasn't working because I was not good in my relationship with my mom.
Mm.
Like, there's no reason why anybody should be having a full out yelling contest with another person every so often.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely check out the show. That's
Yeah.
that's the main point of this part. Check out the show. It's beautiful. They're coming out with a new season for everyone. If you fall in love with it, you know,
Yes.
they're
I
already
know.
filming, so it's gonna come out soon enough. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the show too, just of how it is, and obviously you can tell how excited I am about it. But I mean, just a couple things that you were saying, like I think I already know where this episode's gonna go, and I'm so excited for for me, for our community to really listen to what we got to say. So before we dive, I know you mentioned a couple things already, but I want to start from the beginning. And offline, you mentioned that the show Criminal Minds sparked your interest in psychology. Can we dive into that? Why did that spark your interest in psychology?
I was in high school, and This was when I guess watching TV was so normal.
Yeah.
Just your regular old channels that was free and available. And even then, if anything like DirecTV cable was still a thing, I know it is still now, but nobody's watching DirecTV, right?
True.
So
True.
at that time, Criminal Minds would always come on at like midnight or 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. They'll show like an episode or two at night, and I was up doing homework because, well, one, I would get home from whatever sport I would be playing, and then I'd be tired, and then I would play games with my friends first before I do my homework. But I always
Hmm.
make sure I at least did my homework. Yeah, so it pretty late at night. I'm just doing my homework and I have that like just kind of playing on the TV. And I think I just got really fascinated. Like, I don't think it had anything like looking back and watching the show now,
Yeah.
it probably had nothing to do with how good the show itself was, but it
Mm.
was more about like why do people do what they do?
Mm.
Like why did this person choose to commit these crimes, these acts? And whatnot.
Yeah.
And I think that's where like my interest really peaked in psychology. And at that time, I also didn't really understand the realm of psychology and
Mm.
how vast it is and how many different ways you can go about it, right?
Hmm.
Like I didn't know what a forensic psychologist is, and that's kind of what the main aspect of, you know, the person who would work with the criminal or trying to figure those things out, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, if you can, if this is a field and this is something you can do, this sounds so interesting and so fun. Like it probably entails a lot of danger, perhaps,
Yeah.
but you're just sitting there trying to understand why did you choose to commit these acts and these
Mm.
crimes and things like that. And it's like,
Mm.
I never thought about doing these things, no matter how angry or how mad I am, right? And at that time too, my mindset was it's not necessarily limited, but I haven't built the framework of where I am today to see that perhaps this was their last resort. Perhaps this is their way of calling for help. It could
Hmm.
be a myriad of reasons. But at that time, it's like, like, why are you choosing to kill your family or whatnot? It's like,
Yeah.
what could be so bad, right? And then they might regret it. They might do this and do that. And so, yeah, I think it just came down to like, I'm so fascinated about why you choose to do what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's why I also fell into really diving more into mental health because like, why do I think negative thoughts? Like why do these things come into my mind? Like I don't understand. Like I don't want to think negative thoughts. I want to think happy thoughts, right? So
Yeah.
I think that also really sparked my curiosity about like psychology. And I took psychology 101 in college. I was taking it because it was my senior year. I was like just needed extra credit, whatever stuff. But it was actually like really interesting stuff to me, and I was like, oh, like
Yeah.
I wonder if I did this as a minor. With the Criminal Minds show, I actually never watched it before. So can you give a quick context? Is it like are they reviewing cases, or is it just like role play, like kind of acting roles kind of thing?
Yeah, so I think that the concept and the purpose of the show is kind of a lot like a lot of crime shows that people would watch.
Hmm.
There's a team of people trying to find an individual, a group of people that are committed some sort of an
Hmm.
act. And I feel like if anything, this dives deeper into the psychology of somebody's mind because I think when if you compared this to like different type of crime shows nowadays, I haven't watched many nowadays, but
Hmm.
I'm sure it's more story driven
Yeah.
versus this is there is a story and a plot to the episode, but you know, there is that stronger aspect about the psychology, the why, the what brought somebody to this brink of like,
Hmm.
can I go back and make these decisions, right? Instead of just like, well, this is a gang attack or something like that, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's what made it more unique and special. It's still going today, I think. So, it's one of the long running show and it's good. It's very good and very fascinating. You
Hmm.
just they do their best to try to explain certain things within psychology and within how the brain works and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I think that's what makes it more fascinating.
All right, let's go from the minds of criminals to now your journey with obviously being in psychology, like studying psychology. You could have mean, you mentioned it yourself. You could have went to many different areas of it, but you chose, at least your master's degree is in the marriage and family concentration. Like, why go that route?
I'll be honest, when I first applied for that program itself, or
Hmm.
just this concentration in general, I had no idea what it was.
Fair, fair.
I didn't even know this was a concentration. I was definitely not very prepared to, um, I guess, apply fully. Where
Mm,
I did the work, I was, a research assistant. I did everything I probably needed to do to apply for graduate school,
yeah.
whether that was at the master's level or at a doctorate level. And
Hmm.
I did apply for both at the time, right, when I first started. And to me, I don't know why I didn't, but I never sat down and be like, okay, what different are there even different degrees, or is it just kind of like, you know you get a bachelor in psychology, you get a master's in psychology, and so forth, and then
Hmm.
you just work. But so I didn't know there's different concentrations in,
Hmm.
like, marriage and family therapy. There's even counseling. You can go into social work, right? You can go, the big thing out there, and the most prestigious one is clinical psychology, right? Yeah. So there's so many different things that I just didn't know about, and I just thought, it's one step up. Next
Yeah.
step is get a master's degree, and then you can go on and so forth, or get a doctorate degree. But even a doctorate degree has different concentrations, right?
Hmm.
And so I did not know any of that. I didn't consider any of that, and
Uh-huh.
I just applied because I was like, well, I got I'm gonna apply to my local schools for a master's,
Hmm.
and I'll do some local schools for a doctorate and maybe one far away and see what happens.
Yeah.
Right. And then this was during COVID time, and I was just, a part of me was quite anxious, like, okay, like, I need to get into somewhere, because, or
Yeah.
else what was the purpose, right?
Right.
Just, did I do all this and waste all my time?
Hmm.
So I got, an interview from this certain program, and I was accepted like 3 hours later. They sent me
Damn.
an acceptance letter 3 hours later. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was so excited about just getting into school
Hmm.
that I was like, you know what? Seeing how much, I guess, perhaps they valued me and wanted me,
Yeah.
that I got acceptance that quickly. This might be the place to be, you know. Like, I got interviews from other schools and stuff, but I was waiting to hear back from them and all
Hmm.
that. Like, even my own undergrad school, they didn't give me an interview. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
That's
But whatever. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah, but like finding out later on when I met my cohort, like, you know, this obviously, it's a great boost to your ego and your feeling, knowing the
right.
fact that, like, oh, I was the only person that they gave a like admission letter,
Mm.
like, within the same day of the interview, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is such a great feeling, like, yeah. And so, although it didn't work out with me being there,
Mm.
it still obviously taught me a lot from the whole experience, right? And that's kind of how I got into marriage and family therapy, not knowing what it was, not even
Hmm.
expecting anything that it was, but it happened for a reason, and
Yeah.
I'm very glad that I did go into this side and field of psychology,
Hmm.
because I think that brought me to learning more about myself and my family.
Yeah. Yeah. Dive into that a little bit more. Like, how have the
Yeah.
things that you learned helped? You talked about that relationship with your mom. Like, how like did that anything that you learned? Like, did you implement that with that relationship, or anything like that?
Going to a marriage, like an MFT program,
Hmm.
the purpose is to kind of view everything in a context of a system. So usually, minimum two people or more, right? And how that influence a lot of things. And if you go to a bigger, even bigger system, it'd be more inclusive. It could be your whole family, perhaps your community, and such and such, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the theory of thoughts and schooling is like, how does your family influence you, and how do you influence your family in whatever way it does, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like understanding that and then going to understand that a lot more, I know I learned from that, and I think if anything, a lot more is from therapy, is that the way that me and the way that I act, kind of maintain how my family interactions and how our family lives in a way.
Yeah.
And same with my mom, the way that she acts and whatnot, maintain how our family lives and what our lives look like. And so when we have a foundation where it was really built upon like being able to communicate effectively,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where, growing up, it wasn't like if I had challenges in life and stuff, I was going to my mom and sharing those things. You
Yeah.
know, like I know that maybe not 100% sure, but I can recall just hearing like she would probably try to ask like, how's everything? Is everything good? Is life good? Is school good? Are your friends good? Things like that. But I, at the same time, when you haven't started opening up about those things from a younger age, it just didn't feel normal and natural.
Yeah.
So, it's always on the surface like, yeah, everything's good, everything's fine,
Mm-hmm.
and that led into kind of that's our relationship. We have very little conversations, we have very, very little things, and the way we both choose to live maintain how our family interactions and how our family life stays intact. Like, we don't eat together at the dining table, which maintain the fact that we don't have an opportunity to build, you know, our relationship or even build our way to talk to each other, right? Like
Yeah.
if you sit stuck sitting there at the dining table, you'll say some things eventually, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then maybe with time, probably with time, maybe you feel more comfort to share certain things, and or at least like try to throw something out and then see what happens, see what the reception is like, and then
Mm-hmm.
you choose to proceed like, let me go deeper or not. But we never, like, after my dad left in high school,
Mm-hmm.
or he didn't leave, he got kicked out. After he got kicked out, then it was me, my brother, and my mom, and from that point, we never really ate together anymore. We were all kind of like isolated from one another, although we lived in the same house and the same roof and everything. But, that continued throughout the years, and I think that built more distance with one another, like including my brother. So, learning that like, okay, the family is the way it is because of everybody's contribution in some sort of way, right?
Right.
And somebody needed to do something different to change that, right? But the fact that we weren't, and I can view these fights and arguments as like, in a lot of different ways. Like, one, we don't know how to communicate,
Mm.
so we're just like trying to share whatever we're sharing, but
Yeah.
it's not going the way we hope. The other person's not hearing what we're saying, so we're both just frustrating each other. And
Mm-hmm.
your wonderful primary emotions of just like being angry, right? That comes out first. Like, what's behind that anger? Probably hurt, pain of not feeling like they understands,
Yeah.
right? And so your
Yeah.
anger comes out first. And so in that sense, we just kept things the same way, right?
Mm.
Um, I could also think about like, well, perhaps, you know, this style was to also maintain the way that we wore, maintain the fact that we are distance, we're not okay with opening up and sharing. And
Mm,
that's how we live, you know.
mm,
If like I imagine if let's say me or my mom, if we were to get into an argument and one of us was like, you know what, let's take a step back, we'll come back to this.
mm,
Or, you know what, I agree, we can agree to disagree. And we'll talk about this later. Whatever it might be to like, you know, change the way that the interaction's going.
yeah.
That is the point. That is how, like family system works in trying to change what the norm is and what the baseline is for everything. But
Mm,
we don't do that. We don't know how. And by maintaining our current interaction, it kept what the family looks like, which is, we're distant, we don't
mm,
communicate well, we don't share,
mm,
because imagine if we tried to share, it would be very awkward,
yeah.
you know. And like I don't really know the true answer because we never did family therapy ourselves. So these are just
Mm,
things I'm guessing could be possibilities based on what I learned. Is
mm,
if we shared, that would be awkward. That would have changed the interactions and slowly maybe shifted. But by yelling at each other, we're
mm,
never gonna get close, which we weren't already.
yeah.
So it maintained it. So yeah,
Right.
I think it's a lot of vastly different ways that it could have been.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Like growing up, my relationship with my parents, it was very, I guess you can call it transactional in a way, or that's how I felt at the time because it was like, oh, like I give you good grades, I give you success for you to make you at ease that I'm going to be okay, that you don't have to take care of me anymore. And I think that was the transaction was more transactional in that way. But part of my therapy was really to amend that relationship with my parents because they basically, I'm not sure if this is the right term, but they basically like dump their trauma, or I internalized their trauma from when they were talking to me about like them escaping war, seeing, dead bodies, seeing, horrific things as a young person. I internalized that trauma and then put so much pressure on myself to be like, oh, I have to do well in order to give back to what they did. And as I went through therapy and I got older, I was like, there's nothing that I can do in this world to, like, monetary, anything like that, to give back to what they did. I mean, how can you, right? How can you give this kind of opportunity to your kin and by like escaping some horrific things, right? And once I realized that, I had the goal of, let me try to talk to my parents like they are, they're adults. Like we're not that we're friends, but we're acquaintances, right? So I'd be like, oh mom, how was it like for you when you were younger? Dad, how was it like you for you when younger? And I think that kind of broke the barrier of like, hey, like, okay, like he's like an adult now, like he's doing things on his own and all that stuff. And I share a couple laughs with my parents now, and it's so weird because back then I don't think it would have been that way. Like I think a good concept, like you said, like at the dining table, the TV was on. So either my dad was watching TV or I was watching something on my phone because like I was like, well, I don't really need to talk to my parents right now, right? But once I took that away and really was like, oh mom, how was your day and stuff like that. And when she wasn't like bringing up some like guilt tripping stuff, like it was fun. It was good. So a lot of the points that you just brought up really opened my eyes to be like, okay, like that's what I did in that healing time and what happened when I was younger. I want to know how your relationship with your mom and your brother is now. Have you applied those things that you learned in school to being like, hey, like let me try to amend some of these things with my family?
Yeah. Well, I think I would probably credit whatever has changed all to therapy.
Hmm.
I don't think school itself is not that it's not beneficial, but when you're in school, you learn theories and stuff, and you could always try it out
Hmm.
with people and whatnot. I personally think that, well, one, it's hard to try to do that because that's like trying to do therapy on your own and do it on
Yeah.
yourself, which
Hmm.
usually is like a big no-no. And two, in my opinion, for myself, it's never worked. I could tell myself a bunch of things, not work. has not worked in that way. But something about, through therapy, that makes a huge difference. And I feel like I know why, you
Hmm.
know, but in general, being able to learn, like, to separate whatever my mom wants to talk about and wants to discuss, and even if we're not meeting eye to eye, right? Like the first step was just learning how to be okay to walk away. We
Hmm.
how we had to switch up the way that we communicated, right? And to change the patterns, right? Which really ties back to what how it works in a family system, right? Something had to change,
Yeah.
right? And that will make people uncomfortable, right? And as much as maybe learning and getting a read, like a good read of why she's the way she is, and
Hmm.
understanding more about her perspective, like that took time as well, but that was the most, at least to me, it was like the most effective initial thing because, you know, when I'm angry, like, or maybe when I don't, maybe most people when they're angry, they don't care about why the other person's also upset, you
Hmm.
know. Sadly, their ego is very strong, right? And if anything, your safety comes first. Your body's protecting itself, right? In a funny, maybe weird way, when you're angry, you're lashing out, you're running away, whatever it is, you're protecting yourself from being in a position of getting hurt in some sort of way,
Yeah.
right? So I had to learn to just have conversations with her and be like, I disagree and walk away,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
or saying like, well, let me share and then you can share and then we go back and forth. And then if we want to leave, we leave. And then if we don't agree, we don't agree. You know,
Hmm.
things like that. And I think that's where things started to slowly make a difference because, like I can still feel like there's times when I would feel angry because I'm like, you're not listening, or
Hmm.
I completely disagree with whatever my mom is saying. And, my mom's the same. She's like, like, you're not hearing me or you're not agreeing with what I'm saying. And we'll get
Hmm.
frustrated. But you know, it takes us being able to get up and walk away, and like me just, saying like, okay, well, that's that if that's what you believe, then that's okay, then we don't have to
Yeah.
talk about this. And I just kind of get up and walk away.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we might revisit it, we might not, but we haven't gotten to like we don't get into just full blown like yelling at each other, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's like the huge thing of like somebody making a change in some sort of way, right? Like other things I had to learn too was I had to learn how to be, and this is probably the more hard thing to do because getting up and walking away might seem difficult, but when you're mad, you probably will do things that just hopefully not be as mad. But the
Yeah.
harder thing was being open and vulnerable.
Hmm.
You know, like there are times where I struggle with certain things, like when I needed to switch programs, or like another thing I struggle a lot with is, and me and my mom probably will not agree on this ever, is kind of like how to be physically healthy and what that looks like, what that entails, and how to lose weight and all that jazz,
Hmm.
right? And that's probably another conversation, but like we will not agree on what that means, all the time, right?
Yeah.
And I've gone through phases in the back where I was basically, I make jokes and I say I was fasting, but I was basically starving myself. Like,
Hmm.
like just to keep it short, but I would fast for like 3, 4 days. You know,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So then I would have one meal and I go back to fasting and then 3, 4 days. Right. And of course, when you do that, you're so deprived of everything, pushing to lose weight. That's like I think about, and I was watching the documentary about like The Biggest Loser.
Hmm.
Like they're you're whether you are that active or not, but if you're so restricted on calorie and everything. And I was working out. I was working out every day. Like if I had, and that's because it was during COVID. So I had all this time. I was working out every day, like an hour or two. Might do double session too, because I'm like, I'm bored. I got nothing else to do, right? And needed to get through time when I was hungry. It's like, you can't just sit there. You just think about the hunger,
Yeah.
So I was doing all that and I was losing all this weight, right? And then obviously that doesn't work because metabolism crashes, a bunch of things,
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's never the recommended way to do things, right?
Yeah.
So I had to tell her, like, she was like, oh yeah, you were able to do this before, why can't you do it now, blah 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 blah, and I never wanted to say it because I was just like, not that I don't want to like her to understand, but I was just like, I don't even want to discuss this, because
Mm.
it's just we just talked about the same things. And it's like
Yeah.
it's bringing up like this part, like, oh, look, you did this before, you did this before. And then, one day I basically lashed out, not in a yelling way, but more like I just couldn't handle it emotionally anymore. And it
Mm-hmm.
just came out like, when you were so proud and this, the only way to reach this, I was literally starving myself.
Mm.
You know, basically that's what I was doing. I was having 1,200 or 2,000 calories every 4 or 5 days. That's a tremendous deficit, you know.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I was splitting that up every day, so there was still something there. It was every 3 to 5 days I would have the one meal, you
Wow.
know. Yeah. So I mean, I did drop weight tremendously. I was down like 80, 90 pounds within like 6 months or less, give or take
Wow.
6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and And so, like, I had to like open and share that to her because I was like, well, one, I didn't want to listen about all this stuff anymore. But two, is
Yeah.
like, your expectations of what it means to reach this goal by a certain amount of time and whatever, you know, health advice and stuff you might be getting from doctors and stuff, it's all great,
Mm-hmm.
but it it doesn't help me when I'm just like, how about you just not say anything?
Mm.
Or be like you always want to be supportive. Being supportive to me is not me hearing and having to answer how much weight have I lost?
Mm.
Have I been doing well? You know, being supportive is just like, to me at least, was like, how about once in a while if you can ask those questions, and if I answer, and if I have made some progress, you know, you can say, good job. You can say, even if that's so hard for you to do because she's an Asian mom, you'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, is there anything I can do to help that, right? And that that I don't think that statement is even a compliment, so it shouldn't be that hard to say, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and you're always saying, I want to help. So here's a way you can ask what you can
Mm-hmm.
do to help, right? I don't need to hear like, oh, that's good, but you could do more. Oh, that's it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I don't think any, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel that not many professionals and doctors would say like losing 2 pounds a week is so little. They're probably
Yeah.
like, that is very good. You're probably doing on a good track and stuff, just
Mm-hmm.
kind of going that way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But to her, it's like it's only 2 pounds. I'm like, bro, like
You know how hard that
that's
is?
that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, yeah, it's like I can lose more, but I would starve myself and I'll lose more.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work because look at where I'm back.
Yeah.
Like all that hard work of losing all that meant nothing because it's not sustainable. It's not can't
Mm-hmm.
maintain that for their whole life.
Yeah.
So like having to those type of conversations with my mom,
Mm-hmm.
like that was the harder thing to do, to open up. But that is like the part to change how we interact, how our family works.
Yeah.
Is you have like those are probably harder than the let me take a step away, let me say, agree to disagree and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
somebody has to do it,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And that is one of the biggest way to really change how everything functions.
Yeah.
Because on the surface you can look at it as like, oh, you guys are finally being vulnerable and open to each other,
Hmm.
right? And yeah, you're getting a better understanding of things, so that perhaps you can communicate better, you can not put so much pressure and whatnot. But
Hmm.
on the other hand, think of it in this sense of like an MFT. If we were doing therapy, it's like now we are explaining what's going on. We are not going to hold back, and we are not aiming to keep things the way they are anymore. You know,
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
to make some sort of a change. And, this might be drastic in like the sense where the story is a very intense one,
Hmm.
and perhaps it's also just a way of like, I can't do this anymore. But
Yeah.
making the choice to choose to be like, well, this is what happened, this is who I am, this is where I am. You choose to accept it or not. I think that was the biggest thing, you know, is like in a relationship, I guess that works too, right? This is what is going on, this is who I am. You choose if you're okay with this or not.
Yeah.
It's not my job to convince you if you're okay with this or not, right?
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, it's like I know we talked off screen about you having to work through your challenges of like what are your identities, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
one of those things was I have to be smart,
Hmm.
right? And now I hear that it ties in being smart can lead to success, to lead to giving back to your parents,
Yeah.
and lead to I'm sure a bunch of other things, right?
Hmm.
You were voted like most likely to succeed in everything, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And but this is what everyone else is telling you it's going to be, right? And then I'm sure as you worked it out, you're like, well, my worth is a lot more. I'm
Yeah.
I'm hardworking, I one of your identities could literally be I love basketball. That's an
Hmm.
identity, right? It's
Yeah.
a simple one, but that's an identity. And it's up to their person to choose whether they accept that or not, right?
Hmm.
Just because we're supposed to please everybody,
Yeah.
to keep everything the same, because as much as we think we want things to change, we don't, because it's so uncomfortable. I think
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's the thing. It's so uncomfortable,
Yeah.
no matter what. But if you're like, I'll just deal with this discomfort, being okay with like, I'm gonna sit in this discomfort and be like, well, this is who I am. Now it's your choice.
Hmm.
You know, they got to do something about it. If they choose not to, they'll forever stay uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And nobody wants to stay uncomfortable. You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's the idea of doing it, and yeah,
Yeah. Man, you touched upon like so many great points there. Like I
yeah,
mean, like I think on the last one that you just talked about was like we it's true, like if I didn't if me or you wasn't vulnerable to our parents about what we were going through, like they wouldn't have changed. They would have kept along like, oh, like um cool, you're doing this. It's like, oh, like you get an A, you lose 2 pounds in a week, but like you could do more. You could always do more. And I don't know where that mindset that they got that from. Like maybe it's like survival, but it's also like, dang, like like you're always striving to nothing. Like it's something that you can't get to because there's always gonna be, oh, you could always do more. But it's like, okay, well, if I had $1 million, like would you say like, oh, you could have $1,000,001? It's like, that's crazy, you know what I mean? But I think it's like you touched upon, it's like you are in control of what you're going to accept or not. If you are having this tough, relationship, whether that's with your parents, family, intimate relationship, like it's still on you to be like, am I going to accept this kind of treatment towards myself? I don't want to say treatment or like behavior towards me, right? And like that's up to you. But if you want things to change, like I'm sorry, but Asian parents or immigrant parents aren't gonna change. Like you just gotta accept that at the end of the day. So if you want that kind of better relationship with them, like you gotta find a way to open up a little bit. And I think that's what you were kind of hinting at as well, in terms of your, like, your, I'm forgetting my point here, but I know you just kind of unpacked a lot there. And how did you feel, like, looking back, right? The journey of your relationship, like, with your mom and stuff, and even the journey, just, like you said, even, with your weight, like, how do you feel personally about your progress with those two things?
Um, well, I think those two are much different in how I feel.
Right.
I feel like when it comes to with like my mom, and
Mm-hmm.
I realized I didn't even answer about my brother, but well, at least with my mom, I think we're at a better stage now
Mm-hmm.
than where we were, from the arguing constantly.
Yeah.
Like there's still times when it's very challenging where, like I've asked her, and I guess it's not even an ask. I told her to try to work on setting these boundaries and whatnot. Being like, you know, if you're gonna ask me about my weight stuff and it's not about how you can help or, just simple check-ins every once in a while, I'm not gonna answer the question.
Mm.
You know, I'm not gonna do this and do that. And she said okay, but she still does it. Maybe the frequency might be less, but she still does it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I try my best to be like, okay, I'm not answering that, or I'm not doing that because I already said I'm not doing so. There's progress that has been made a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
so now we can, still we can have conversations, we can make jokes, we can laugh, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. We'll still have some challenging moments, but it's never full out blown of us arguing with one another,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when it comes to, let's say, the losing weight aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
like within myself, that is still a very challenging thing. I think like the struggle of it, and it starts with, and I don't know how true this is, but it feels true, at least is you I feel like you always want to try to find some sort of motivation
Yeah.
to start, to keep going and whatnot. But I don't know, maybe it's just me. There's no motivation. Like the motivation is, you know, you just kind of gotta just do it,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes that's the motivation you need. It's like you just kind of got to do it, right? And because I spent so much time being like, let me find a way to motivate myself to do this and do that and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And it never works out because motivation doesn't last. That's a true thing. Motivation does not last. I'm like, yeah, hopefully you have motivation to get you started and
Yeah.
then you build something to kind of continue going. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was so hard to find any sort of motivation because I would try my best, and then, the result doesn't show up fast
Mm-hmm.
enough, and
Yeah.
I know realistically that's not how that works, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's also so mentally draining
Yeah.
that you're just like, you just want to be reinforced by something positive,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because it's like you already know that you're not in a good place physically,
Yeah.
right? And you're trying to make some changes, but it's not easy, right?
Yeah.
For all those who are overweight, probably hope I assume maybe feel the same. It's like your body doesn't react or, you know, act upon the way you want it to. It's
Mm-hmm.
not easy. I'm sure many, if not all, but
Mm-hmm.
hope I assume many would probably, you're in some sort of pain or ache like all the time because it's just a lot of weight in your body, you know?
Yeah.
And so working out is not an easy thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people can say like, oh, just go on walks. Going on walks is not easy when your body just hurts all the time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like as sad as that sound, it's the truth of people who live in these situations. And I can always say like, well, yeah, we could have made better decisions. I agree to that to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
I could have made better decisions when I was an adult, right?
Yeah.
But obviously something that my partner Jen told me is like Although you could have, if you never grew up learning any of this, it's not like you had a foundation to be like, well, now I can make these choices for myself, you know? Yeah, you
Yeah.
have more freedom and flexibility, but you didn't learn what you're supposed to do. So
Mm.
when you have freedom but not know what to do, it doesn't matter, you know? All I knew was like, well, I ate this way, and so let me continue to eat this way, right?
Mm.
Or I'm researching and you got to eat, you know, chicken breasts and broccoli
Yeah.
and, you know, like a little bit of rice or whatever, and let's do that. But it doesn't work when you grew up eating in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
Having certain type of cuisine or flavors and whatnot, and you go into this straight chicken breasts with salt and pepper and broccoli, you know, it doesn't
Like, this
work,
shit has no flavor.
right? And yeah, the absolute zero flavor. It's terrible, right? And then at the same time, your body is just in a state where you wish it could just do more, but it can't, right? Like for me,
Hmm.
like I shared this with Jen recently, and then honest, it's like when I play sports, even if I'm in pain, it's a lot better and easier just because it's fun, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not in a state of mind to feel the pain. There's the
Hmm.
adrenaline and other things that's happening to for me to be like, I'm just feeling good. Now afterwards, I feel sore, I feel aches and stuff,
Hmm.
but you know, we can stretch and get over those things.
Hmm.
But for at least for myself, if we're just going on a walk, right? Unless I'm walking, doing something that keeps my interest and take my mind off doing things, I'm just stuck like, oh, this hurts, right? My knee aches, my calves are tired, my back is hurting, whatever. So it's like I don't know if people really understand that, like, yeah, go on a walk. Go on a walk is not easy at all, you know. I'm lucky to be able to I enjoy playing sports enough so that when I do play, even if it hurts or it aches, I'm like, that's okay, I'm having fun. You know, my mind's distracted. But I can't even imagine for those people who are like they're not a big sports person or something, right? And they're like, well, you can just start by going a walk. And they try, and it just, there's no fun, there's no joy.
Yeah.
All you feel is pain, you know, like that's not, it's not easy. And so for myself, it's still there, right? Like the motivation of going is like, yeah, I'll go, you know, and I feel that little bit of like dopamine, endorphin release after the workout. Like, oh yeah, it feels great. But again, those thing goes away.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
So yeah,
no,
the
go ahead.
struggle maintains and just, yeah, yeah. The struggle just kind of like stays there and just, you know, it's not easy. And I do my best to push myself to go and be consistent and be okay with it. But at the same time, the physical drained is not as hard as I feel like the mental
Oh yeah.
drain that somebody has. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, man, the I just have to applaud you for, pushing yourself to the change that you want to, and like not every activity or way of how to either weight loss or gain muscle. Like I'm in the phase of like trying to gain muscle, and I'm like, for me, like mentally eating is like really hard for me to get to a certain calories. And like how one cuisine or whatever could work for me may not work, for someone else. And what you're talking about, right? It's like I feel like when someone says just go do something, like that makes us not want to go do it, because it's like we want to in our head mentally, but like there's so much more to it, right? And motivation, spot on. It's only temporary. Like, with people in the gym, like a gym or working out, like you'll get 3 months, like your first 3 months, you'll get a exponential change, like look wise, right? If we're talking about reward systems like that keep us going, the reward system that we get is that we look ourselves in the mirror or number and be like, okay, that's going down. But after that 3 months, like the change is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And you really need to find a new reward system, whether that's intrinsic value, within yourself, or, finding like, hey, like I was very consistent this week. I can enjoy like, a small treat or something like that. You know what I mean? And, it's just constantly figuring out a different reward system on that journey. And I'm not, I just have to say, like, just in that journey itself, like, I feel you, man. It's a hard one to go through, and it's like my fitness coach says, it's like watching paint dry. Like, in order to see that change, like, it's gonna be a long journey, and you can't expect quick results, and motivation's not gonna be there every day. But if you keep showing up consistently, and being compassionate with yourself, being graceful, trying to push yourself to the best you can be for that day, whether that's 100% or 20%, like, that's all you really can do at the end of the day, and assess, like, on a daily basis on what you can do to get better every single day. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um.
yeah. I think what. Sorry,
No, go ahead.
but
Go
I
ahead.
think the one thing that you brought up that is, I think, very important, and maybe people don't think about a lot, and I'm still figuring it out for myself too, is the aspect of intrinsic motivation, and that. So when you think about like intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, sadly, a lot of us nowadays are very extrinsically motivated. You know, like I'm also somebody who's like that, right? Right. When you are extrinsically motivated, those things are more greater rewards or more um instant to anything,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And so it's great, but the sucky thing is it's never going to be good enough. Like, as much as you might be like, if I work out hard today, I can go eat some sushi, whatever, right?
Mm.
You're gonna be motivated to work out super hard and go eat, but you can't do that every day, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it's feasible for some, but I feel like most of us probably not as feasible to do. Like, be like, I'm gonna work out hard and I can go eat my favorite meal or whatever, right? But yeah, so sadly, the shift that we see in a lot of people, and I know there's research backing this, but I don't know the exact research article, so maybe don't quote me on this so hard, but I've read it in the sense where if you find ways to be able to intrinsically motivate yourself, that is how motivation stays. That is how you continue to stay determined to do things. Like, you really have to ask yourself, in a sense, why am I doing this? Right. And like, for me, I have to ask myself that question too. And I know it's not fully intrinsically motivated all the time. Because I know I can easily say, well, because it's for my health, for my future, which is all very true,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to be like older and not be able to walk around or play sports, or hopefully the day when I have money and I can travel the world, it's like, well, my body aches, so it's not like I can walk anywhere, so I can't even enjoy the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because luckily and sadly at the same time, we're one of the few country that commutes and drive a crap ton. Everybody else walks,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah. So if I can't withstand and handle that, it doesn't matter if I have money. I can't I can't travel, I can't enjoy anything, right? So doing those things for my own personal health, those are like intrinsically motivations, right? Intrinsic motivation. But that external stuff, this is also there. It's like, well, if I look better, I'll feel better. But that's just for the purpose of, who's valuing what you look like,
Yeah.
right? Or if I can do this, I can get my mom off my back. That is, extrinsically motivation, because I don't have to deal with hearing her complain or make statements or blah 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 blah. And although it will mentally give me a peace of mind, am I really doing it for myself at that purpose? No, I'm doing it so she'll just hush and not talk about this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the sucky thing is, we're wired and we were built to be intrinsically motivated, but society and everything outside is providing this like instant gratification. It's so nice. It's You get rewarded so quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes it hard for you to really reach within again. Like for myself, it's super hard, right? Still to reach within and be like, I am doing this for myself in some sort of way, right? No, I want my mom to stop talking. I want my mom to stop blabbering about it. I would like to look nicer because it makes me feel confident about myself, right?
Hmm.
But if you are healthy and your doctor said you have no health issues, no challenges, will never get anything, but you don't look like you have a six pack, would you now care about six pack as much? Maybe not, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. If I look the exact same way I do now, my doctor said, "Wow, you good. No health challenges, nothing." I'll be like, I'm not going to the gym. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
there's no way I'd be like, let me go suffer at the gym today or something like that.
yeah.
Like, yeah. So I think that's the fascinating thing, like the point you brought up. It's like
Hmm.
we want to be, find those sort of intrinsic motivation, but it's hidden behind so many instant gratification and wonderful reward system that doesn't contribute to, sadly, maintaining motivation, maintaining, your determination to keep pushing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's such a thing that we only know within ourselves what works and what doesn't. But I think, hearing your side as well as my side, people can really be like, okay, like this is what I know, but let me figure out whether it's intrinsic or extrinsic or a mixture of it to figure out what's going to work best for them. I mean, bro, I mean, we could talk for hours. Honestly, there's so much
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we could surely unpack on. But I just want to say, thank you for coming on and speaking about your story, offering just your great insight about mental health topics. Unpacking, talking about your family dynamic as well as like your journey on weight and perspective. And I know you're writing your dissertation on that. I want to say good luck on that too, because I know it's going to be quite a journey. But man, it was a great time to getting to know you, talking offline for 30 minutes and getting to talk to you like just throughout this episode. So thank you, man. And I'm looking forward to our conversations in the future, talking more about mental health topics.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate you providing a space for me to share, and so many others that probably have come on before and will come on to share, their perspective on everything. I hope I continue to do well, and this gets spread to many that probably just need somebody to experience something similar. So, at the end of the day, they don't feel like they're alone at whatever they're going through.
Yeah, yeah, couldn't have said any better. So I want to get into the last few questions here. I want to bring out a question from someone from the audience. Based on your experience, what is one common conflict between marriages or between families? Like, what's the number one conflict that you have found between whether that's marriages or families?
Well, I guess the broad answer might just be communication, but I think the communication is never really the main problem. It ties into what the lack of communication brings up, right? Well, it might start off simple, like you didn't hear me, you don't want to do this, you don't want to do that, or you didn't share these things, so your boundaries weren't set, your needs didn't get met. And then eventually, where does that lead? You know, that leads into anger, disappointments, um, expectations, and none of those things are fair for either party, right? And, one side might be expecting this, but how would the other person know you had these expectations when you never shared it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's, for me, like that brings up the this the common thing that everybody loves to say nowadays. Might be unpopular again, right? It's like if he would, if he could, he would.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I'm like, no. If he could and he knows, then he would.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, if he could, but he doesn't know, how could he? Like, how
Oh,
could somebody do something you want?
yeah,
How could
for
somebody do
sure.
something you want without knowing you want that? Like somebody could do certain things and be like, oh yes, this is an act of service, or I know that you don't like this, or you need help in this. But then again, they know something that led them to do these things when you didn't ask, whatnot,
Yeah.
right? You have to share something. You have to say something. You have to communicate these certain things for people to be understanding, like, oh, I know that you're very tired today, and work has been very busy, so I made dinner for us,
Hmm.
right? When this person might never have made dinner before,
Yeah.
right? But that is you sharing, I'm really busy this week at work and whatnot, right? And that's still communicating in some sort of way,
Yeah.
you know? And yeah, so I think that is dumb as hell. I'm sorry, people can hate me for all they want, but there's no way it makes sense that somebody could do these things for you when they don't know that that's what you want. That's
Hmm.
what you is maybe not even a want. It's just or a need. It's just a want, right? It would be nice they did this, but I can survive without this. Well, I don't know what this is until you say what it is,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's where it goes to. Like, you then create either expectations or your needs are not met, and both people don't understand each other, right? And then it kind of, the worst case scenario, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, is it goes towards resentment, and resentment is one of the most difficult thing to come back from. There's statistics out there that if one person or both people resent each other, it's very unlikely, very difficult for that relationship to rebuild and to reconcile in a lot of ways. There's like
Hmm.
actual statistical numbers on that,
Yeah.
and so I'll say broadly what it means to communicate. Even the littlest thing, even the most minor thing can make a huge difference for someone's relationship. It doesn't have to be romantic. Be with your friends,
Yeah.
right? And I can admit I struggle with those things too. You know, so yeah,
Yeah. I mean, bro, when you just said that, like I couldn't. There have been so many frustrations where I've heard that, and I couldn't. I mean, I see where you're coming from, and it's just like, yeah, like how
yeah,
about adding in if he would and he knows he could.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like that is like
yeah,
it's like I can't keep get like there's a cognitive distortion literally on mind reading that can lead to
yeah,
low mental health of a person because they're always trying to read the other person's mind and they don't know, like
mm,
they try to do things, but what if that person actually doesn't like it? And yeah, man,
yeah,
I mean, I was just clapping at that point because I was like, I couldn't
yeah,
agree more. Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, man, thank you for providing your story, your insight, man. Let's get into the big three questions. These are the last three questions that I think could leave a final impact on our viewers. And the first question I have for you is, if you could talk to a younger Hui, what would you say to him, or what would that interaction be like?
I feel like I've thought about this a lot, and it's something in therapy, like if you want to go console your younger self and tell them it's okay, tell them everything is fine and stuff. But at the same time, I think this might be something that I don't know if it's normal, but I also believe that you have to, in a way, you always want to take care of yourself now because that's what your younger self deserve. But what about the fact that, like sometimes your younger self could have tried something different, could have just chosen a different thing within the capacity of what they could have done, right? And for me, I think I would like to just tell him, like, you know, I forgive him for certain things he did because what he did, you know, brings certain things to my life now still that I feel like it's very hard to overcome, you know. And these are obviously all based on the choices that he made within his control and his power, right? Not saying like he was forced into certain things and he had two choices to make and that's all, you know. because a lot of times that's what the case is, right? But I would like to really sit down and just forgive him for certain things he did that would allow me to kind of truly, genuinely move on from certain things that I feel like I haven't yet.
Yeah. Yeah, forgiveness is it's one of the hardest things to do, and I think a lot is something that we should do more often. My second question to you is, what does becoming the highest version of yourself mean to you, and how are you doing that today?
I think just striving to being better every day, some sort of way, right? I I know that it's there's still a lot of space to grow and to figure out certain things. And I don't even know exactly what the highest version of myself will be or what that's going to look like. I don't know if I'll ever achieve it, to be honest. But I think every day just making even one choice to improve your life or yourself in some way is pushing yourself to get to that point, you know. And today for me, it was just like, certain days are not easy. So today, I was really struggling with thinking about the gym and weight loss and stuff. So for myself was just being able to wake up, making a choice to, drink water and hydrate myself. So far, I think that was, like didn't sound like much, but it was like I could have done this, or I could have, who knows what else I could have done, right? But
Yeah.
trying to take a step towards doing better for myself, right? So I think that's the thing, just making one conscious decision each day, no matter how little it is, because some days it's super hard. Some days you don't want to do anything. But if you were like, you know what, I'm just gonna get out of bed, go brush my teeth, and then go lay back down to bed, that's huge, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, especially when I was in that depressive state, like getting out of bed, walking, going, doing anything like that, that was hard. And a win for me was just even taking one foot out the bed. So, yeah, a small step is still a
Yeah.
small step. And my last question to you is, if you can connect me with someone to come on this podcast that who would it be and
Mhm.
why?
I feel like a lot of people would be open. Um, I feel that some might be more willing than others. But if anything, I feel that my friends from school
Hmm.
probably be very open. And because they've also gone through a lot of their own experiences through life and has taught them a lot of different things. Um, I don't know if they're free, but they do. I've through my time of learning about their experiences and their growth and their journey, I think it would be great that if they were able to do so, to be able to share those things with others, and hopefully that makes the same impact for those individuals too, because the things they went through were part of like, big communities. So like not to throw certain things out there, but think about like I guess maybe growing up in like a, you know, Latino American or Mexican American family, which is very prevalent for those who live in Southern California, you know, or another one. Obviously now if they listen to this, they know exactly what I'm talking about. But like another individuals like dealt with growing up with like challenges within the church scene, and that's a huge thing, I'm sure, for a lot,
Yeah.
right? And so, I'm not sure if they did go on, they would share those experiences specifically, but you know, things like that I feel like reach a lot of people with some similarities in the population and whatnot that can really, hopefully others can hear and know that if anything, things are going to be okay. Hopefully that's the minimal thing that can come across of anything. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean,
yeah.
I would love to, in the future, maybe connect and talk about that individual or whoever you feel like is best.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for coming on here. Um, I I'm looking forward to another conversation, hopefully another episode with you in the future.
Yeah, 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 definitely, definitely. I feel like I didn't realize the time went by so quick. I felt like in my opinion, we didn't even get that deep.
I know. Yeah,
So
same.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So definitely, would love to come back and have another chat with you.
Yeah, and hopefully in person when you're in town next time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That'd be great. That'd be great.
All right, man. Thank you again. And, anyone, if you liked any part of this episode, please clip it, tag me, tag Huy in it. And please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when an episode comes out. And as always, let's fall in love with the process of getting better every day and becoming the highest version of ourselves. Love y'all.